Hey YouTube, what's up? It's me, your old pal, from the internet. And I'm back in action, and here I am. You may have noticed that I am no longer going by the name Cypher555. I've hung up that hat, and I've put on a new one. And I am now under the name Grixis Ghoul 15. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitch under the exact same name. All of those links will be in the description below the video, so you can easily click them and follow them, or subscribe, or whatever. You know, that's that. So what am I doing here? What am I doing today? What am I doing on Twitch? The answer is that I am getting into game coverage. And my game of choice will, first of all, be Magic Arena. So what I'm here to do today is to do a little deck tech video where I go through the deck that I have built, and then I am playing, and I explain what's in the deck, why it's in the deck, and why certain things are not in the deck, and why I do things the way that I do them, what the deck does, things like that. Super lame, nerdy stuff that you might not like. But if you stick it out, or just skip, you can get to the end of the video, and at the end of the video, I'm going to explain, a little bit of a roadmap. What I'm doing now, what I will be doing in the future, where I plan to go with all of these little projects that I'm putting together. Or I guess this one little project, whatever. I'm going to explain where things are going to go at the end of the video. So if you want to stick around, or just skip, you're welcome to do that too. You will see exactly what my plans are. What I've concocted so far. I don't really plan too far in ahead. I just kind of do things. So, without further ado, here it is, the Grixis Super Friends deck tech. Thank you. Jump right in. Here's the deck. Let's take a look a little bit quickly at the breakdown of the deck. As you can see, I have 0 creatures. I'll get into why that is maybe a little bit later. I have 35 non-creatures, which leaves 25 spaces for lands. Lots of planeswalkers, and an even split on instant and sorcery. No artifacts, no enchantments. Keep it simple, right? Not really. Let's get on to this thing. So first of all, I'm going to go in the order that is presented on the side. I'm just going to go, I guess, order of converted mana cost, ascending. So let's start with Opt. What is Opt? Opt is, in my opinion, the only thing I can do that is close to Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain, all those fun one-drop blue spells that you just don't have access to in Standard. Opt lets me scry 1 and draw a card. Now, I will take a moment, though, to say that Opt was originally 4 copies of Augur of Bolas. I've always liked Augur of Bolas as a card. I think it's super sweet. There it is right there for our convenience. I don't think I can make it big. But basically what that is... Oh, there it is. Big. Augur of Bolas. When it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 3, take an instant or sorcery, put it into your hand, the rest on the bottom. So, it does go deeper than Opt. However, it cannot find lands. And most of the time when I'm in a situation where I need to dig, it's often because I'm looking for another color. Because in the 3 colors, things are a little bit strained, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but I am a free-to-play player. So I kind of just work with what I've got. And when it comes to looking for the lands that I need, Opt is really what I want. It does find those instants and sorceries that Augur of Bolas looks for, but it also gets the land, and it's an instant as well. So for that reason, I have gone with Opt over Augur of Bolas. I have 1 copy of Negate. I think Negate's purpose kind of goes without saying. It helps me deal with things that I don't want to deal with, a lot of pesky artifacts and enchantments, as well as other planeswalkers. I do have other answers for those things that I'll get into later in the deck, but the reason for 1 Negate is simply that I have other answers for those things, and those other answers also do other stuff, whereas Negate is just Negate. And I love Negate. It's one of my favorite cards, actually. But I decided just to play 1. It was at 2, but I brought it down to 1, and I'm liking where that is so far. Moving right along, we have Thought Erasure. Now, Duress is also in the format, and is nice because it's a 1-drop, but Duress can hit creatures. And when you're playing a deck like mine, you need to clear the creatures. It's very, very, very important. So I play the Thought Erasure to clear creatures, but also to clear the other things, like what I was saying about answers to things that Grixis can't really deal with, like enchantments. Thought Erasure can get those things on the 2nd turn, which is really, really nice. And of course, Surveil, it lets me take a look at what's on top and get rid of the things that I don't really want to deal with. If I'm looking for specific lands, I can find them. If there's a land on top and I don't need any more of those, get rid of it. I can find what I need when I need it. Surveil helps do that. Moving along, we have Tyrant Scorn. It's a pretty straightforward piece of removal. It only destroys creatures mana cost 3 or less, so that's kind of where Thought Erasure comes in. It lets me get rid of those 4 and 5 drops that I don't want to deal with, especially that, I can't remember the name, but it's a green dude, and it's Quest Hunter for quests or something. I don't remember his name. Let's see if I can pull him up real quick. That's not how you spell quest, so that's a bad start. I don't remember his name, but it's a green mythic, and he's a 4-drop. So that's basically what I'm doing there, is getting rid of that butt face. There it is, Questing Beast. This is the big game. And so I try to get rid of that with the Thought Erasure, but I have other ways of dealing with it too, and we'll get into that right after Tyrant Scorn. And up next we have Angrath's Rampage. Sacrifice an artifact, sacrifice a creature, or sacrifice a planeswalker. So I can deal with those pesky planeswalkers that kind of ruin my day. I can take out a creature if I'm getting one at a time, and I can take out an artifact. So, you know, Angrath's Rampage is absolutely a mandatory 4 of. You cannot go less than that for a deck like this. Narset Parter of Veils is sweet. She's kind of like Augur Bolas. She gets 1 card deeper, but she can also get planeswalkers, which is nice. If you were playing artifacts enchantments, she could also get those. The other thing she do that I kind of forget about sometimes, because it doesn't come into play super often, but when it does come into play, it is clutch. And that is that it limits my opponents from drawing more than 1 card per turn. And that is incredibly relevant, especially I know I just said it doesn't come into play often, then said it's incredibly relevant. What I mean by that is that when it's relevant, it's very relevant. In control matchup mirror matches, you want to cut what they're able to do with their drawing abilities. In addition to that, it stops that Izzet deck that uses the enchantment to, whenever you draw your second card, you create a 1/1. And that is just terrible. Why can't I use the search feature to save my life? Oh, because I'm still on Mythic Rare. So we'll change it to Rare. It's still not finding it. Amazing. So basically, there's an enchantment whenever you draw your second card of a turn, create a 1/1 token. That deck really frustrates me because they can obviously just keep creating these creatures. I don't have an answer for enchantments, and you know, I have board wipes, but when I clear those board wipes, when I use the board wipe, they just make more dudes. It's really unfortunate. So it's handy to cut that deck off. It really just stops them in its tracks until they can get rid of the Narset. And if I've gotten them into a position where they have not yet created any tokens, and I have Narset, and their whole plan is to make those tokens, I can usually keep their board under control with things like Angrath's Rampage, Tyrant Scorn, Ritual of Suit, a little further down the list. So at that point, once Narset's resolved, I'm in a pretty good spot against that deck, which is nice. So moving right along, Sinister Sabotage, counter target spell. It is not specific, it hits anything, and then it gives me the Surveil, which is nice for reasons listed above. I really like Sinister Sabotage. It does hurt to pay 3 mana for a counterspell just because of my background in Legacy and Commander and stuff like that, but sometimes you gotta do it, right? Moving along, we have Bedevil. Now you'll notice I have 3 copies of Bedevil. That's because I haven't been able to purchase a 4th copy, but when I do, I assure you, there will be 4 copies of Bedevil, and that's probably what, that last negate is probably going to be gone for another copy of Bedevil. This thing is great. It hits artifacts, it hits creatures, and it hits planeswalkers, which is so nice because when you're in the control mirror match, you really want to make sure they don't get to use planeswalkers. Moving right along, Drawn from Dreams. This is a card, I only have 1. I would like to be playing 2, maybe even 3 of these guys. Looking at the top 7 cards of your library and choosing 2 of them, it's effectively a double impulse, which is really, really great. It helps me filter through the deck, find exactly what I need. Sometimes with Drawn from Dreams, I honestly just take the spell I'm looking for and another land. It's really, really handy because it can get you those lands as well. If you're on turn 4 and you have a big expensive hand, lots of 6 drops, 5 drops, whatever, and you need those lands, Drawn from Dreams will get you those lands. It's very, very good for that. Up next is Ritual of Suit. I call it Damnation. It hits almost everything in this format, which is so, so nice. Having Destroy All on a 4-drop spell is just incredible. And even though there's the restriction of 3 or less, it usually hits most things. Not the Questing Beast, like I've said, but that's okay because, you know, your Ritual of Suit, they have nothing left, maybe just 1 Questing Beast. you can follow up with Angrath's Rampage and remove the Questing Beast, and then you've done effectively an entire board wipe, which is so important when you're trying to control the game with Planeswalkers. So I guess up next is we're going to do some Planeswalkers. So Nicol Bolas, there's 3 copies of that. I do want to pick up a 4th when I get a Mythic Wildcard, but for now I'm just playing the 3, and it is just so good. I don't really know what to say about Nicol Bolas. I mean, he's Nicol Bolas, and any card that he's on is going to be a strong card. And this one, at 5 mana, comes down. If they have a creature you don't like, you can get rid of it. You can clear their Planeswalker, or you can just start ticking them up, drawing cards, exiling stuff that they control or stuff in their hand. Nicol Bolas is really solid for that. Plus the sort of static ability it's got, where it's got every loyalty ability of all Planeswalkers on the battlefield. That includes your opponents. If your opponent's got walkers, you can start using their tech on your guy. If you've got a Narset that's sitting at 1, she can't be used anymore, you can play Nicol Bolas, you can start doing Narsets again if that's the kind of thing that you need to do at that time. He's incredible utility, and he's a huge target. As soon as you drop Bolas, people kind of forget you exist, and they just go right for the Nicol Bolas. It's really good for that. That's kind of why I want the 4th copy, because the first one is almost like a dummy to just sort of take beats while I stabilize. Yeah, Nicol Bolas. Not much more to say. He does what he does. Liliana. This is one of the best Planeswalkers, I feel, that Control could ask for. So you've got that emblem effect right away. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. Now, I don't have any creatures in the deck, but I still get mad gains on this. When I had the 4 Augur Boluses, this was sweet. But even without those, I'm still doing super well, just with that one ability, because her plus, create a 2/2 zombie creature token. These tokens are incredibly important. They stand in the way of things that attack, and when they die, which they usually do because they're so small, you get to draw a card. And, you know, if you get to that late game point where they have no cards in hand and nothing on the field, and believe me, it happens, you start swinging in, you do 2 damage, then you're doing 4 damage, then you're doing 6 damage. You got an army of tokens coming their way. If they happen to get creatures, -4. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. Once you've got the game into a position where they don't have cards in hand and they're just kind of top decking, if you can make them sacrifice 2 dudes, and in addition you sacrifice your zombies and draw cards, you're putting, you know, the game is tilted like this, you're tilting it further, you're bringing them down, you're bringing you up. And then there's of course the ultimate. I don't really feel the need to cover Planeswalker ultimates because, you know, obviously if you resolve them, you're that much closer to winning, and that much is a lot much. So, sweet ultimate on this, sweet ultimate on Nicol Bolas, moving right along. Chandra, Awakened Inferno. This card is super powerful, super potent. First of all, its static ability is that it can't be countered, which is so nice in the mirror match, because when you're dealing with counter or control, you want to be able to get things in for sure, especially things like this, things that are ending the game in your favor, right? You absolutely want those to happen. So the +2, opponent gets an emblem where they take 1 damage per turn. So she starts at 6, that puts her up to 8. That's insane. She comes in, she starts dealing damage to your opponent, and she gets bigger. So it's harder for them to wear her down. Ideally, at this point, if you've played the Chandra the previous turn or 2, you've done Ritual of Suit or some other equivalent effect to clear what they have, so they actually can't come at Chandra with anything. But, like I said, she comes in at 6, and her minus ability is only -3. So to cut her in half, you can deal 3 damage to all non-elemental creatures. There are a fair amount of elementals, but not enough that this ability becomes bad. This ability is incredibly relevant, hitting everything for 3. Sometimes you can drop her, clear the board, and just pass the turn, and they now have a Chandra to deal with, and no creatures to do it. If they happen to have 1 big baddie, you can slam that -X, and you can clear the big baddie. -X starts at 6. If you're willing to sacrifice her, you can clear something with 6 toughness, or you can just clear something with 5 or less toughness, and she sticks around. And you know, the only creatures in this deck are the 2/2 zombies that Liliana creates. So you're not doing a huge amount of damage pressure. So putting that emblem on there doesn't mean too much, but once they've got 2 or 3, they're going to start to worry, especially if you've also got Liliana making tokens and attacking. So moving right along, we've got Ugin the Ineffable. There's no other colorless cards in the deck, so the static ability doesn't do much. But the plus, I was mistaken. There are other creatures in this deck, kinda. It's the plus off Ugin. And they're the same sort of creatures as Liliana. They're 2/2 tokens. When they die, you get something. It's super rad. So you exile the top card of your library, and you've now created effectively a morph. When this morph dies, you get the card. Sometimes it's just a swamp, but they don't know that. And when you've got 3 or 4 of these tokens, and again, this does happen, you get 2 or 3, 4 of these tokens with mysterious cards underneath. I feel like it kind of puts them in a position where they're not quite sure if they want to attack into that, because they could just be giving you your Nicobolus or your Liliana. They just don't know. They bounce the tokens, exile the tokens, it doesn't matter. As long as they leave the battlefield, you get the prize those tokens have tucked underneath them. It's super great. And then, of course, the -3, it hits artifacts. Well, not really. It hits some artifacts. It hits enchantments, it hits creatures, it hits planeswalkers, all kinds of things. I forget the name of the spell, but there's basically an Oblivion Ring. Enters the battlefield, exile a permanent till it leaves the battlefield. That enchantment gives me a headache. And when they hit it on Nicobolus, it's super unfortunate. But you slam that Ugin, clear that enchantment, you now have an Ugin and a Nicobolus, and they're left kind of to pick up the pieces. It's really unfortunate for them, but that's the way it goes with control. Up next is Finale of Eternity. Clears dudes. It's a bit expensive. It's kind of unfortunate. You don't really get to capitalize off that last ability because, first of all, you rarely ever hit it. Even when you do, you don't have any creatures. So that's half the pool, just not there for you. Finale of Eternity is really my 4th Ritual of Suit. Once I get the 4th Ritual of Suit, Finale's gone, Ritual's in. That's how that's going to go down. And then I've just got a bunch of lands. I've got some basics, 3 of each shock land. That's only because I don't have the wild cards to make the 4th copies. You can see I've got a lot on my wish list. I'm really working towards it, but it's taking the time it takes because I am free to play. So that's the way it goes, And I'm playing the 4 beacons. It helps me gain life because in a deck like this, you're going to take a lot of damage usually before you can completely stabilize, and that's okay because every time you cast the Planeswalker, you gain 1 life. If you've got 2, 3 of these beacons going, you're going to gain multiple life for your Planeswalkers. So it gives you that board presence as well as kind of brings your life up, which is nice. Now you may have noticed this deck doesn't have an explicit win con. It doesn't have like a Grave Titan. Things like, you know what I mean? The deck is literally win with Planeswalkers. And it's not so much win with Planeswalkers. That was kind of a misrepresentation of what I'm doing. What the deck really is get yourself into a position where they cannot win, and then they concede. And that sounds super lame and super tedious, but I personally have a lot of fun with those kind of decks. Back when I played Paper Magic, I was playing a blue-black control deck in Standard, where the plan was win game 1, draw game 2, move on to the next one. It was awful and miserable, and nobody liked playing against it, and it was the most fun I think I've ever had with competitive Magic. So I was kind of trying to recreate that environment here, is make a deck that is not fun to play against, put them in a position where they no longer can win, and then they concede. And it's just been great. I don't know how well that'll translate to Paper Magic, but on Arena, it's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying it. And if you want to try it out, you're welcome to do that. Feel free to join me on Twitch at twitch.tv/GrixisGhoul15, and you can see me playing this deck. I'm going to be doing that probably on Tuesdays, maybe Thursdays as well. And there we go. So that's it for the deck tech. Thanks for watching, and if you stick around just another couple minutes, I'm going to explain where the channel is going to go from here. Thank you so much for watching. You have a great day, and I'll see you in a couple seconds when I explain, what's next. Cheers. Well, that was a hoot and a holler. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I hope you enjoyed the content and that sort of thing. I hope it was entertaining and all that fun stuff. So now here at the end of the video is what I had promised at the start of the video, where I'm going to explain sort of where I want to go from here, what I want to do, where I want to be, what I want to say. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to come on here and I'm going to post videos about, Magic Arena or Pokemon Go, things like that. And as I go, I'll add other games into the mix. Now you're probably wondering, if you're a longtime viewer, if they still exist. I could be talking to no one right now. But, you might be wondering, well, am I going to do my old content? Am I going to be talking about music? Am I going to be talking about what's going on in the world? Am I going to be presenting poetry? And, all the fun things that I used to bring to the table. The fact that, I'll be honest with you, I actually don't know. As of right now, I have no plans to resurrect the old kind of content. And if I do, that's exciting too. If you want to keep an eye on the channel, keep an eye on my Twitter, Instagram, whatever, to see what comes, you're more than welcome to do that. And I highly encourage that you do that because, if you're familiar with my content, you know that I kind of just go in whatever direction the wind pulls me, and wherever if I see something bright and shiny, I run towards it. And that's, so if I come up with a sweet idea, I'll make it and I'll put it out there and you can enjoy it. But for now, the plan is Magic Arena and then Pokemon Go PvP, which should be coming in the next week or two. So hold out for that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, that's Grixis Google 15. You can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Twitch, where I'll be streaming a few times a week. So thanks so much, and have a wonderful day. It's good to be back.